My dad's alcoholism is killing him, but donating part of my liver might not save our family. Now I face a life-altering decision: should I help him, risk regret, or put myself first? Content warning for alcoholism and self-harm. This might be lengthy because I will recount the entire story in detail. I am a woman in my mid-20s. I apologize if I am not the best at expressing myself. I am using a mobile device and English is my second language. To make a long story short, my father is dying due to alcohol-induced cirrhosis. He was first diagnosed 2 years ago when his abdomen swelled abnormally, prompting my mother to encourage him to see a doctor. We were informed that it was the initial stages of liver damage, and it would be manageable if he abstained from alcohol and took his medication. Unfortunately, it did not turn out that way. To give credit where it is due, he did stop drinking almost immediately after consuming one last bottle. He was doing well until a couple of months ago when his symptoms began to worsen. At this point, I must discuss my father a bit. His personality is difficult to characterize because he embodies contradictions. For me, I have always known him as a wise figure whom I looked up to, sought advice from, and admired for his intelligence. He always told me that I was fortunate to be born into a family of intellectuals, since both my mother and father are university-educated bookworms. However, he has very serious flaws, such as uncontrolled anger, intolerance, and a certain level of manipulation. Over the years, he has guilt-tripped both my mother and me over the smallest issues, disrupting the peace in our home and causing me to feel as though I had to walk on eggshells at times. For example, he would forget to flush the toilet or would not clean the sink after blowing his nose, and when I pointed this out to him, he would raise his voice and sulk for days, as if I had scolded him like a child. He would make expensive and often unnecessary purchases, leading to arguments between him and my mother. When I was a child, and my mother was a teacher at my school, he was responsible for preparing dinner. My mother was always busy chasing after me, and often forgot to call him to inform him when we would be home so that he could serve warm food. He would yell at her for this. My mother tells me that when I was born, he did not want to take responsibility for the challenging aspects of parenthood. As soon as my mother came home from work, he would dump me on her, even if she was tired, asserting that it was a mother's responsibility to take care of her child, even if she was fatigued. He was even jealous of the attention I received, which led to many conflicts between them. His fights usually consisted of him yelling at her. If she had known about Reddit at that time and had shared all of this, everyone would have indicated what a red flag he was and advised her to get a divorce immediately. Despite all of this, he did improve as I grew older, but the initial damage had already been inflicted. Everything that transpired caused her to lose her love for him, and for years, they existed more as housemates than a couple. I have asked her many times why she did not initiate a divorce. She cited several reasons: a lack of financial means to do so, a desire for me not to grow up without a father, as she feared I would try to fill that void by dating older men, and the wish for me to inherit our apartment. If they were to divorce, it would need to be sold, and half the proceeds would go to my father. Thus, she endured my father's verbal abuse for many years. She managed well because I had no idea of the less than ideal circumstances of my family for a long time. I would hear about kids with divorced parents and pity them. I would proudly tell everyone that my father was the one who made dinner, and everyone would admire that. I know I made it sound negative, but despite all of this, my father loves both me and my mother. He may have been a poor husband, but he has not been a bad father. He has always shown me considerable affection, genuinely cared for my well-being, and consistently aimed to do what was best for me, always encouraging me to read more, exercise more, and invest in myself. In fact, we had a very close relationship, and I always viewed him as my role model. We also enjoyed good times as a family. My father always emphasized that family should eat together as often as possible, and we did so without drama or arguments for many years. When I was a child, we would go on summer vacations together, but as I grew older, he inexplicably stopped joining us. Yet, he began to accompany my mother and me on trips again, which delighted me. So, you may wonder what went wrong. More than a decade ago, my father quit smoking at my urging, something he has thanked me for many times, only to replace that addiction with another. He was not always a heavy drinker. His alcohol consumption markedly increased when I was in high school. During that time, I was experiencing significant teenage depression, and my father felt terrible for me so much so that he would cry himself to sleep. Fortunately, that period ended when I started university, and it seemed that everything was going to be fine from that point on. However, he continued to drink every night. He always had some justification for his drinking. He could not sleep, and alcohol helped him. He was merely drinking for pleasure while watching football. That was his only enjoyment in life, so what if he drank? When my mother pointed out that alcohol was expensive and that he was squandering money that should be spent on me, he accused her of worshiping money, employing his usual manipulation tactics. When the pandemic struck, and we were all confined to our homes, I began to develop anxiety about my father's drinking. I repeatedly communicated my concerns for his health and expressed fear that something would happen to him, only to be dismissed. I forgot to mention that he also has diabetes, which complicates matters even further for drinkers. It reached a point where one night, after I told him for the 100th time how afraid I was of him dying, he finally grew angry with me for pestering him and raised his voice. I had a total breakdown, retreated to my room, and proceeded to harm myself with an old, dull pair of scissors. I felt frustrated that no one was listening to me. After that incident, I did not bring up the topic again. I went to the doctor by myself, took the medication, used the creams, and now, thankfully, there is only some redness remaining. I struggled for a long time as I awaited the hyperpigmentation caused by the infection to fade. It was a terrible experience, but I eventually managed to overcome it. In September 2023, I went to study abroad for a year, unaware that this would be the last time our family was okay. I called home frequently, pleased to hear that my parents were no longer fighting, but were simply talking about how much they missed me. My father's health was not a concern for me because he seemed to be doing well. When I returned home, however, I noticed that his abdomen had swollen again. From that point onward, everything worsened as his symptoms escalated. It is known as hepatic encephalopathy, a condition where the liver cannot function correctly. The episodes became more frequent, and my world came crashing down when we learned that, without a liver transplant, his death would be both inevitable and imminent. Desiring to save my father, I decided to volunteer as a donor. My relatives also discovered the situation. They are religious non-drinkers, and my father had concealed his condition from them out of shame. My uncle, who knew someone who had received a liver transplant, reassured me that it involved only a small incision and that they would only be removing a small part of my liver, which turned out to be untrue. They take up to 70% of the donor's liver, and it is a significant incision. Despite that, the risk to me is minimal, and I can return to my normal life relatively quickly. After hearing about all of this, my mother, who had been holding herself together quite well, lost her composure. She expressed a lot of things. She stated that she would not allow me to go through with it, that she would never forgive me if I did, and that she would disown me. She expressed her hatred for my father for bringing us to this situation. She even lied and claimed that my father once physically harmed her, later admitting that they had pushed each other. Then she reconsidered everything and told me she would support my decision, whatever it may be, because she does not want me to live with such immense regret. She does not care what happens to my father. Her only concern is for my well-being, as she fears that such a deep regret of not donating may be worse than surgery and the resulting scar. I have been undergoing all the necessary medical testing to determine if I am a match to be a donor, and it turns out I am. However, I am struggling immensely with this decision. I feel confused and lost. For one thing, it seems that I have lost all respect and even affection for my father. I have pleaded with him numerous times, and it was not enough. I harmed myself, and even that did not change anything. I feel betrayed. Currently, I am sitting in the hospital cafe writing this and avoiding my father. I finally confronted him today. I have been thinking about all of this repeatedly, day and night. I told him everything that was on my mind. How much he has messed up, how he has never taken responsibility for his mistakes, how I had dreams for our family that he has destroyed, and my concerns that if I donated, he would simply revert to his old habits. He was in tears, as were both of us, although I maintained my distance both physically and emotionally. He accepted everything I said. He claimed he would respect my decision, whatever it may be, but that if there was anything he could do to make amends, he would like the opportunity to do so. Perhaps I am overthinking this. Maybe this decision is clear-cut for many people. Perhaps I should just do what is perceived as the right thing. After all, everyone makes mistakes, right? At the organ transplant center, I even met a man who had alcohol-induced cirrhosis, and both he and his wife were so nonchalant about it. He joked about how it was an occupational hazard since he was a tour guide who often drank with tourists, and his wife appeared perfectly fine with it. Maybe this is my duty as a daughter. The surgeon even expressed that he wished his father were alive to get angry with him. A friend told me that a scar on my heart might hurt more than a scar on my abdomen. Yet I have already harmed myself once for him. Am I to be scarred by my father not once but twice? Should I just say, "Here, take my body"? It's not as though I am a young woman at the beginning of her life. It's not as if I do not need my body anyway. Why and how does he get to hurt me like this? I keep trying to envision it, and I simply cannot imagine myself with such a large scar. I do not want it. Is that superficial? Is it worthwhile to obtain that scar in exchange for saving a life? Is it even going to be worth it, considering that my mother has already stated that she will either divorce him or force him to live separately from us? She despises him and never wants to see him again. She just wants me to have a clear conscience. I do not know if there is any scenario in which we can return to being a happy family. Were we ever truly a happy family to begin with? She mentioned that if I desire it, the three of us can continue living together. She would do it for my sake. He will undoubtedly die if I do not follow through. I do not even know what to think or feel. It is surreal that a person's life is in my hands. I wish I were not a match so that this decision would not fall upon me. I have lost so much respect for him. I am heartbroken. While I obviously do not want him to die, it feels so unfair that my own father has hurt me like this. Yet, simultaneously, I wonder if this is my fate and if I should simply give in. If he dies, I will naturally feel sad, but I might also feel relieved that I did not have to donate part of my liver. However, I fear that in my current state of mind, I do not realize that I may regret this decision for the rest of my life. This could result in a lifetime of remorse. If I do not proceed, does it imply that I am punishing him? Perhaps he has endured enough punishment. Or does it mean I am justifiably prioritizing myself? I need more time to contemplate, but that time may not be available. For the record, after speaking to him today, I do not believe he will be the same person anymore. He has already changed significantly during his illness, ceasing to become angry over trivial matters. Therefore, I am not only seeking outside perspectives, I am appealing to all of you for guidance regarding this significant decision. What should I do now? Should I save someone's life or not? If I choose not to, will I regret it, especially since my mind is clouded with anger and resentment at present? Please help me, as I truly do not know what to think anymore. In addition, none of us realized that this constituted alcoholism, and he has expressed that he would not have chosen this path had he known this would be the outcome. We all believed he was simply drinking, albeit excessively, for pleasure while watching football. Story 2. Bound by toxicity. My friend Sarah drains my energy and resources, ruins my birthday, and refuses to pay back money I lent her. All while I struggle with cutting ties. Should I wait out the last few months or just walk away now? So this is a rant story time about a toxic friend who is still in my life, and I am unable to remove her. Let us call her Sarah. I met Sarah in the first year of my college through my ex-roommate. Let us call her Jane. Jane and Sarah were in the same class, so one day she came to visit Jane's room, where I lived as well. She immediately began talking to me very excitedly, telling me about herself, and asked for my Instagram account, probably because both of us are from the same religion, while Jane is not. After that, we started hanging out often, the three of us, and Sarah began to meet my other friends from college, among other things. Sarah lives with her brother. They are both studying here. Fast forward a few months, and that is when things started becoming unhealthy. She began acting very possessively and would get upset when I hung out with other friends without inviting her, or when I posted stories without including her. She would even feel jealous when I went out with Jane or shared stories featuring her. She was my roommate, of course, so we had fun together and became close. On a few occasions when Jane and I fought, she would come to me and say things like, "Yes, she is like that. Let us go out." instead of trying to reconcile us. I think she enjoyed it when I had disagreements with my other friends. In addition to her possessive nature, she is very inconsiderate when it comes to money matters. Whenever we went out to eat or have tea, she almost never paid. If she ever did, she would ask me to send her half of the cost. She developed this trick where she would refrain from ordering anything, and if I did, she would eat from my meal. If I asked her to pay, she would claim that she did not even order anything or that she simply tasted my food. When we made plans for movies or any other activity, she would beforehand say she did not have any money, expecting one of us to offer to pay for her. If no one offered, and we went without her, she would become upset. Once, she caused such a significant misunderstanding between Jane and me that we did not speak for 6 months and began living separately. We have started talking again now, but live alone and not together. Jane still does not speak to Sarah and likely never will, which I believe is beneficial for her. Sarah also has this habit of taking my belongings without permission. My parents live abroad and send me chocolates or other food items that are available overseas. For instance, if they send 2 packets, she would simply come and take one, saying, "I am taking this." I am a person who finds it difficult to refuse someone when they ask me for food or other items. I try, but I cannot bring myself to do so. She then began requesting other items that belong to me, not just the chocolates. For example, she once saw my aloe vera gel and said, "Oh, I want it. What will you do with it?" She would do the same with my plates, cups, hairbrush, anything, stating, "Oh, I am taking this," without my consent. I have told her that I need these things, but she continues to insist, making it very difficult for me to have those discussions. She even asked for a gift given to me by my fiancé, his Apple earphones, saying, "Oh, I need these." I responded, "No, he gave them to me. Why would I let you take them?" Guess what? She was upset about it, yet her behavior did not change. There are numerous other incidents, but one that particularly stands out is when I brought her chocolates from abroad and I asked for one in return. She flatly refused, stating they were hers. I was astonished at how she could refuse chocolates that I brought for her. It was incredibly inconsiderate. These are all small things, but in the past few months, she has done some much more serious and significant things, which are, first, she absolutely ruined my birthday. My fiancé, who lives in another country, planned a celebration at a fancy restaurant with all my friends as a surprise for me. He reached out to Jane to help prepare for the surprise since he could not manage it effectively from so far away. When Sarah learned that he contacted Jane and not her, she became angry and upset, questioning why she was not asked, particularly due to her lack of communication with Jane. She made a scene, and on my birthday at the restaurant, she sat there making faces, did not eat anything at all, did not speak to anyone, and whispered comments to someone, either about me or Jane. I asked her several times what was wrong, and she merely replied that nothing was wrong while continuing her behavior. Everyone noticed it was affecting my mood and the mood of everyone else, so they repeatedly asked her to cheer up, but she did not. She did not even eat a single bite of the birthday cake, continually made faces, did not smile once during the entire time, and left. The next day, I confronted her about it, and she apologized, saying she was upset that I did not choose her. I explained that my fiancé planned it all and that I was unaware of it, but she claimed that I probably knew and questioned how I could not know. I told her she ruined my day, and her response was a sarcastic, "I am so sorry," complete with a hands folded emoji. Second, an incident occurred a few days ago that made me realize that I have reached my breaking point. She borrowed money from me that she was supposed to return last month. When I asked her for it, she claimed she did not have it and sent me a small amount, promising to send the remainder later. I agreed. Now a month has passed, and I am really broke right now and in need of money. So I texted her again, asking her to send me the rest of the money. She repeated that she did not have any money. I asked her why, stating that I also did not have money and needed it urgently. I requested that she ask her parents to send it or do whatever was necessary, but please return my money, at least half of it, as I was in urgent need. She insisted that she did not have money and would return it when she did. I pressed her for a timeline, and she said it would take 4 or 5 months. That is when my college ends, and I would literally be leaving the country. That is when she wants to pay me back. The amount is not significant enough for her not to arrange it somehow. She has had several months but still refuses to return my money. I argued with her for about half an hour over text, requesting she return my money now since I needed it immediately, not months later. I even suggested a solution where she could pay me back little by little each month, but she flatly refused, stating that she did not have to give me all of it. I am unsure how to retrieve my money now. And to top it all off, ever since I asked her for the money back, she is upset with me for asking for my own money. She has not explicitly stated that she is upset, but she has stopped sending me funny videos as she usually does, has ceased reacting to my posts, and does not send me snaps, all of which she does when upset. I cannot comprehend where she gets the audacity to feel upset in this situation. I should be the one upset as she is not returning my money. I feel like this is really the last straw. There are many more things she has done, but I cannot write all of them here as it would be too lengthy. Now, I am aware that anyone reading this will wonder why I have not ended the friendship. The reason is that we have been friends for the past 3 years, and my entire family, my fiancé, and my in-laws know her. They frequently ask about her and inquire whether we have been hanging out and how she is doing. I will be finishing college in the next 3 months, after which I will be moving to another country and likely will not see her again, possibly only once in a blue moon in many years. Therefore, I wanted to avoid any drama. For the past 6 months, I have contemplated letting this go because it is just a few months, and I do not want to create drama or the hassle of explaining to family members why I no longer speak to her. However, I believe this situation is becoming increasingly unmanageable. Even now, she remains in my life, assuming that it is just 3 more months and it will all be over, but I no longer know if I should end it now or wait. All this time, I have been a good friend despite all her actions. I continue to do things for her and help her whenever possible. I lent her money even after the trouble she caused on my birthday. Yet this is how she chooses to treat me. This is incredibly toxic.